Today's question: did we create God? Hello and welcome to the Poetry Universe. With this channel, as always, I endeavor to take you on a poetic and cosmological voyage into uncharted audiovisual and literary territories. This is a new look for my channel, as I decided to go with a more sci-fi starship theme, since my poetry ventures into parts known and unknown on Earth as well as within the cosmos. Viewers of this, my unique channel, already know that I create visual poems or short films based on my poems and music compositions. Yes, I am also a composer, in addition to a writer. I think this is not only the path to poetic worlds yet unexplored, but more importantly, this kind of composite, eclectic art is really the future of poetry, as well as short films and animation. It's another avenue for animation. And that's really what I'm trying to do here. But wait, here is some breaking news from the Poetry Wizard. Let's see what he has to say. Well, it's not really his news, it's mine. I published my first collection of poems called The Names We Wear. It's now available on Amazon.com for purchase as an ebook, and it's also available as a paperback. And if you have a Kindle Unlimited account, you can read my book for free. So why should you even try to read my book, or why should you want to read my book? Well, in the description, let me tell you how I describe the book first, and then we'll get into whys. So The Names We Wear is a poetry collection that merges the domains of philosophy, mathematics, musical forms, and world religions to challenge and even fracture our understanding of identity and our place within the world. The fundamental philosophy here is that mankind lives in a transitive modal reality that continually recycles itself. Our names are thus merely fragile attributes within this modal, indeterminate world. Now that sounds like a lot of philosophy there, doesn't it? And although this initially sounds more aligned with Eastern religious beliefs in the areas of reincarnation, I'm not really advocating this position. I'm not saying that we are continually being reincarnated. Reincarnation relates to births, deaths, and rebirths of specific souls. My thinking on this, however, is that we all collectively live in an existence loop. We are born, we die, and others do the same. Yet there are really no changes within our collective truth. Thus, my thinking is more aligned with Ecclesiastes, who famously said, "What's done is done. There is nothing new under the sun." My story within these poems is really to illustrate the beginnings of the universe, God, time, and both our collective and personal experiences living life with its many struggles on Earth. But wait a minute. You might be asking, what does this have to do with the headline of today's video? Did we create God? Well, I'm getting to that. Bear with me here. This is an ancient question, actually, but one that perennially rears its misshapen head, particularly in our current dystopian age. Much has been written about whether God is a concept that is a function of early and technologically challenged civilizations. Advocates of such views typically look inward for answers to all earthly problems and thus try to find their inherent God particle. The particle they seek, however, becomes an exercise in futility, since no human will ever eclipse himself and become something greater than human. The history of the God phenomenon is still at the forefront today, even over 2,000 years apres domino, or AD. Part of the confusion surrounding the belief in God is the speculation about the actual nature or attributes of any supreme being. On the surface, it sounds far-fetched, doesn't it? Especially if you consider and take into account all the major religions of the world. How could anyone believe in God without any witnesses or evidence using the scientific method in today's world. Again, I'm getting to that. If you're already familiar with my visual poems on this channel, you may already know some of my answers to the above questions. If you aren't familiar with them, let me show you 3 that may provide some answers. So the first one I'm going to show you is called The Truth Outside of Time. Let me start this up here. The truth outside of time. Once in time, I was master of it. I exist in the 4th circle, in a ring outside where earth holds no sight or sound, where all who walk or run can't catch it, where truth is tasteless or really nothing. I seek all relative things, but I can't really know them, no sense for it, for I exist, but I don't move. I don't glow or waste, but for all else I am of the first known, the first element or thing that begets journeys from Eden to heaven or hell, the first, the last, from beginning's end. I have no spans, and all spans. I am not known, but solely in tales of must be, a banality of nowhere, with shapeless modality of things with no beginnings, no endings, colorless. But once in time, I saw myself, and I came to be. So that was the truth outside of time. This is perhaps one of the least understood concepts of cosmology, since it raises the question, where is God, or where might he exist? This is not a new question, far from it. This question actually goes back many centuries. But the gist of it is that God, or whatever your view of a deity is, would not reside alongside us in the world of time and space. The argument goes something like this. If God is all-powerful and can impact anyone in any period, he must not exist, and more on existence a little later, he must not exist within time as we understand it, but he would have to be able to come in and out of our time and initiate his own existence. Now, when I say God does not exist as we know of existence, what does that mean? Am I saying that God does not exist? Well, let me explain. Think of it this way. If God is perfect, therefore, think of it this way. God is perfect. And if he is perfect, he doesn't require change. Why would you change anything that's perfect? However, existence requires changes in states of being. When we speak of existence, we can say, I exist, but as I am subject to changes in states. For example, I get older, I get angry, I get happy. I am not perfect. I am not in a perfect state of existence. I also require time and space for such changes to occur. Perfection, on the other hand, a godly perfection, has conquered change. So, no, God doesn't really exist in the same way that we exist. In fact, his form of existence doesn't really have a name in our world. He nevertheless remains present across all time and space in domains we will never see as humans. Now, my poem Prime Numbers follows alongside this vein. Let me show that to you. The truth outside of time. And prime numbers, the hours I made. The premise, yes, simple, the hour I made. I made that and all hours when I counted. My own vertices became the gate. Madness, it was madness to think and not just be. Yet the dull wake of nothing and stasis, In a void devoid, I begat horizon's point, where I turned and saw myself. The event, the calling of being, the change, the from where I was, yes, that here to there, in the fourth plane where time began and ended, where the hour was born and died, first in points undivided, where I couldn't see my birth or wake, too close, the hour was and was not, the change bore no signs, till it was still. It was still I who tasked the prime to be, that truth where all things allowed become truth, when divided by themselves and one. For one is the difference where I exist from nothingness, where my cloak covers crevices in unprimed space. Where I am the was and is and will be is one, is I. I exist within the indivisible. But being of the other, the otherness, where I became before I was, before was still in the now, and after, till I ridded myself to be, to see in the two-spaced place where prime began. The first division begat by I, from the one to the two, to feed yet still the will and want of I. So that was prime numbers. And let me just shut that off. So this poem, like I said, it follows along the same vein as the Truth Outside of Time, but this one aligns the irreducibility principle with God. Here's a little info on irreducibility. Believers usually cite that various organisms in our world have components or parts of the body that simply could not have evolved. For example, the eye or certain parts of the cell. And thus, these parts are simply not reducible to smaller components. Such biological components can function independently, and their creation and state of being remains without a known cause. Under such views, this irreducibility factor is evidence of God. Now, one of the things that, if you noticed about both of these videos, especially prime numbers, I used a lot of echo and reverb effects within the audio, and yes, I read all those voices. I recorded myself, layered it, put these effects, sometimes changed the octaves, or the certain other sound effects in there. And the purpose in my doing that was to show the God with lack of beginnings and endings, because this aligns with the principle of God having no beginning nor ending. Hence, God is not reducible. So that's a little ancient and modern philosophy in a nutshell. Now, the third poem I'll show you is called The Remains of Truth. And here is The Remains of Truth.
The truth used to be there, with the Bible, the Quran, and the Bhagavad Gita, and with tales of titans and Olympians in the mouths of volcanoes and fires, and with the dead, always with the dead, laid to rest, or in burning pyres, and ashes, and dust to dust, to dust. We laid it all aside. That day when we stared at it, that day the light became lust, and we thus became him. We didn't need the tree. The truth we spoke in tongues we knew, and we knew it all from the earth and rain. No fleet-footed, thunder-wielding myths, nor Marys, nor martyrs, no invisible trinities, nor temples, nor Torahs, no Jannas, nor Janes, nor jealous gods telling us to see him and see our wanton wills and ways. The Sufis told it best once, the wise of things and being, even for God, the nothingness was unbearable. Allah couldn't hide. He needed to remember himself, or remind himself that he was, Yet Christians don't explain the whys of breath and breeding or why he so loved the world. Maybe the Greeks had it. Narcissus fell into his reflection, into his seeing, into his creed. For the being is the thing no God can ever see, lest they see it with our eyes, and hence we still look for it. When we became gods, when we became the being, yet to that thing of ours remaining unseen, unbelieved, where no one can really see us still.
Okay, so that was The Remains of Truth. Now, The Remains of Truth is simply an illustration, or my illustration, an indictment on the death of religious belief and the consequent downfall of mankind seeking himself as God, looking for answers, yet only becoming more lost. So obviously, in light of all this, the answer to our original question is a flat no. We most certainly did not create God. How could we ever create our Creator? Now, if you're interested in these types of metaphysical and cosmological subjects, or if you're into audio-visual literary art, you should definitely pick up a copy of my book, as I've demonstrated throughout these visual poems, as well as within my writing in general. I've used a selection of poems from this collection to create my visual poems, by the way. I have to mention that because I have not created visual poems on all of these, the written poems, and I don't intend to. I expect to create future works on maybe a couple of other poems within this collection, as well as some other poems that I've written. So, but if you buy my book, my other poems will definitely be of interest to you if you enjoy these subjects. Please see my Poetry Universe playlist within this channel. I'll leave the link below. I'll be posting some new visual poems shortly, so please be sure to subscribe and hit the like button on this video to receive notifications when my new content is posted. I'll also leave the links to my book below within the description of this video, so please also leave comments, feedback. I am very interested to know how this work is viewed by the outside earthbound world. And once again, as always, many thanks for visiting the Poetry Universe. And remember to always, always, always embrace your muse and to seize the night. Carpe noctem. Thank you for watching.